Eddie Spaghetti, how the hell are you, buddy?
Good. How are you, Glenn?
I'm doing really well, really well. Thanks for joining me today. And even as you're helping your kid with your with his math problems, that was
Yep.
true rock and roll right there, buddy.
Got to do some dadding around while I'm
That's
home.
right. That's right. Well, that's fun. Well, hopefully you get on the road here fairly soon, right?
Yeah, October it looks like we'll be back at it. So we're gonna do a couple one-off shows coming up next month. We got a show, and then we got a one in September, and but October is when we're gonna actually get in the van and go do a series of consecutive linear consecutive dates.
Nice. Anything in Seattle planned yet?
No, not yet, but
Okay,
we'll be up there. I'm sure before too long.
cool. And it's funny, a lot of people. I'll do this before we get into the intro stuff. But a lot of people, consider you guys a Seattle band, even though you technically aren't, but you kind of are. How do you feel about that? Like, do you feel a kinship with those bands?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we came up, we moved to Seattle as a band in 1989,
Right?
and we're there. I lived there for 25 years, so
Mm-hmm.
I definitely, we came out of our, and we came out in Seattle
Mm-hmm.
as a full blown rock and roll entity, and I totally relate with the whole being a part of the Seattle scene and all that sort of thing. I think it's an important part of our history.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And in fact, I just got a couple months ago, I guess, the reissue of the Black Supersuckers demos, and it's great,
Uh-huh.
man. I mean, absolutely great stuff. You know.
Yeah,
Um,
it's fun to listen to that stuff still.
yeah, and I didn't know until actually just now I was looking through the insert of that album, and I didn't know that you guys had you had a lead singer at one point. I
Yeah, when we moved to Seattle, we had a lead singer. We were a completely sort of different type of deal.
yeah. I felt really embarrassed. I was like, that's something that should have come up in my research, but it did not, and until I read the insert.
Well, we
Um,
we've gone to efforts to bury that information. So,
yeah, there you go, there you go. So for people who don't know, can you give me just a really brief history of the Supersuckers and yeah, just a brief history. How's that?
well, first there was a big explosion. Then the Earth cooled.
Awesome. And then you watch The Big Bang
Uh,
Theory, and
exactly.
yeah.
No, we started in Tucson in the '80s, and we were just five guys. There was five of us when we started the band, and we were all friends from high school, and we were all kind of we'd all been in different bands. A few of us were in bands together, and kind of disillusioned by what we were doing up to that point.
Hmm.
And we wanted to make a rock and roll band that was just like real rock and rolly, like
Hmm.
wasn't overtly metal, wasn't overtly punk, was just more like a rock and roll band. I always looked at bands like the Ramones,
Hmm.
Motorhead, and AC/DC as being sort of examples of that, like bands that, maybe they were kind of metal, but they really weren't. And they were kind of punk, but they really weren't.
Right.
They were just playing what I would consider to be real rock and roll music.
Hmm.
So that was the template upon which we built the what were called the Black Supersuckers back in the '80s, which was a terrible, terrible name. We always intended to change it. It was one of those situations where we had a show, we needed a name, and somebody suggested the Cock Hungry Studs, and
I
then
love it.
somebody said, "No, how about the Black Supersuckers?" And that seemed to be better than the Cock Hungry Studs. So
Is there
we
such a thing as a black supersucker? Is that a real thing, or is that just randomly come up with?
I don't think so. It was a name of a I'm sure a fine feature film,
Oh, yes,
um,
yes. One can
found in
only
the
imagine.
back of an adult magazine.
Right?
We used to do this thing where we would kind of jam in our practice space, and our singer at the time would look in magazines and just start reading the names and various uh, phrases out of these magazines, and we would record them and just get a good laugh about it. And it was one of the things he was singing about at the time. So
That's so funny.
it
Like I love
became the
that.
name of the band.
Oh, sorry. I love I forget which song it's on, but where you got the Willie Nelson doing his Super Suckers. I forget how it goes right now, but it's really funny, right? Super Suckers. That's I forget what it is, but Very
Right, right.
funny.
It reminds me of a guy in in a bar. She comes up and says, "Super pussy," and
That's
he
right.
says,
Yeah.
"Soup, please." Yeah.
Yeah, two, please. I love it. I love it. I mean, that must have been incredible, right? Working with Willie Nelson, right?
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, that's a highlight for sure. And
Yeah.
just to have his number in my phone, it's just been that's what I get. I don't get to hang platinum records on my wall or park a million cars in my giant garage,
Right.
or live in a giant mansion or sell out arenas or whatever. But I get these cool rock and roll moments. I get to be friends with Willie Nelson and Lemmy and
Steve Earle.
and known Waylon Jennings and Steve Earle and yeah, it's just like I get to have these relationships with people who I revere and look up to, and you can't take that away. So it's a
Yeah.
nice. It's better than getting a Grammy.
I would say so. I would say so. I have a few friendships, not quite of that caliber, but it's really nice to have. It's almost it's validating to a certain extent, right? It's like, well,
It
this
is, yeah,
person that you really look up to actually also looks up to you, and it's like that's a really interesting and fun and humbling place to be.
right, yeah. When Willie Nelson asked us to back him up on the Tonight Show, I couldn't believe it, and I was just like,
Yeah.
I was blown away that this is something that we're really going to get to do, and we did it, and it was great. It's a treasured memory.
Yeah, no kidding, man. No kidding. And he's and I promise we're going to get into you in just a second here, but I mean, Willie is one of those guys that he cuts across all genres and demographics and whatever. He's just like, he's a really interesting guy, you know.
Yeah,
Even if you don't like the music, he's just a really interesting human, really
right,
compassionate and talented and whatnot. So, kudos for that,
right.
man. Kudos for that. How did the Steve Earle thing come about?
Well, it was kind of through Willie Nelson. Actually, we played a Farm Aid in '95, I guess it was, and that was the year Steve got out of rehab and was back out doing shows, and he was on that bill as well. And at the Farm Aid thing with Willie, and he saw us play there and came up to us and started talking to us, and we were already fans of his, obviously, and
Hmm.
we just sort of hit it off then, and being kindred spirits and whatnot, we just sort of stayed in each other's orbit until he asked us to record. I think it was NYC with him for the El Corazon record that he put out,
Hmm.
and we recorded that track with him, and then we made an EP together that Sub Pop put out. Where we did Before They Make Me Run by the Rolling Stones together, and we covered one of his songs and he covered one of ours, and that was another great validating moment when Steve Earle is singing Creepy Jackalope Eye, which is kind of this goofy
That's awesome.
song that I made up, and but when he sings it, it sounds like real grown up adult songwritering, and I was just like,
Right.
wow, that's a really cool song I made up, and I never gave it the credit it deserved, I guess, until he was able to see what was inside of it.
Yeah, it's funny. I had Ken Stringfellow on in November, I guess it was, and he was telling his story about Ringo Starr, and how Ringo covered I forget the song he covered right now, but anyway, he covered one of the Posey songs, right? And he was like, why would this guy cover it? Like it was absolutely insane. And then when Ringo was in town, he had him come up on stage and sing a couple songs with him, and he's like, I don't even know how this happened. Like it's just insane.
Right.
It sounds very similar. Like those weird little moments of like kismet, where things just suddenly like, oh, okay, here we are. You know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It makes you realize that these guys, although they're legends, they're just regular guys
Right.
who like different things, and they might like you at any given moment and
Right.
decide to like I will play with the opening band on a tour with us, all the time, and not think anything of it. While for these guys, it's a huge deal. Wow, Eddie Spaghetti's coming up on stage with us.
Right.
And for me, I'm just like, whatever. It's
Yeah.
just me. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. I mean, you've got this really interesting attitude, right? And I'm going to bring up when you did there was a benefit for you at the tractor a few years back, um,
Uh-huh.
and you were the one selling the merch, and I thought that was really cool. Like, you were there, in the merch booth, and I was like, oh, okay, well, that's humble. That's it's like, you're a rock fan, and a rock star, I'm like all together, and like, I think that it comes through in the music too, that sort of
Yeah,
humble.
I've never placed an overly grandiose amount of importance on myself or, or what we do, even
Hmm.
though to me it's very important what we do. And I feel like we're as good as any band that's much more popular than us. I feel like we're as good as the Foo Fighters. We're as good as
Hmm.
U2, we're as good as any rock and roll band that's ever been.
Hmm.
We're just not as popular. So that's it's sort of the beauty of music is that you're able to, you don't have to quantify it like sports where it's all about the numbers. How
Right.
many hits did this guy get? How many home runs did he get? It all that's how good a player you are. Whereas with music, it's not the same. It's more subjective. It's not an objective thing. It's subjective. And you're able to
Yeah.
tell yourself that you're as good as the Foo Fighters when most people don't agree with that. But
Hmm.
fuck
Oh,
them. I believe it.
I believe it too, man. And I think you guys share an ethos with bands like the Helicopters, which is one of my favorite bands. Like it, and even though the sound is obviously different, I think it's a very similar sort of thing. You're a rock and roll band, that goes out and you have a great time. You write great songs. Your fans love you, you know. Um, so that was a compliment, by the way, since I love the Helicopters a lot.
Yeah, I like
Um,
them too,
yeah, and I do think there might be some stylistic um, uh, similarities between the two of you as well. Now that
for
I'm really
sure.
thinking about it. Um, yeah, but they're another band where when they did finally come back a couple of years ago, um, people were rabid. They're like, "Oh my God, there's going to be a new Helicopters album," and everyone was like, very, very, very excited about it. And same with Supersucker. So anyway,
Right.
kudos on that, man. that's that's a good place to be. Um,
Indeed.
when is the last? This is a question nobody likes to answer, but when is the last time you had a quote real job? Have you been doing music the whole this whole time, or
Yeah, 92 maybe
wow,
is when I
congrats.
was able to quit my last job that I had, and yeah, it's been a good run for sure. And I was
Heck
worried
yeah.
about it, in the last year having to go and get a real job. I actually applied at the post office,
Oh wow.
but the process was so detailed, and I
Right.
think I got hung up at like the third hurdle or whatever, and didn't
Mm,
quite complete the process. But
mm,
luckily, I haven't had to worry too much about it.
that's good.
I've been able to keep the money trickling in through the videos I do online and
Hmm.
whatnot. Just enough to keep the lights on around here, keep the mouths fed, and that sort of thing. But
Exactly. No, I mean that's again, like there are very few people who can actually pull that off, right? I mean it takes a lot of moxie and I'm sure a lot of terror, on your part, like, oh my God, like rent is due in like 3 days. What do I do? Right?
for sure, 100%. And it's always been a struggle for me, no matter what. But at the end of the day, I'm out there doing what I love to do and making it work. So I win.
Yeah, I think you so too. And this is actually a great segue. I told you I didn't write down questions, but I did. Um, so this kind of ties in. Like, do you consider yourself a romantic?
I don't know. I mean, I romanticize certain things about the past, I suppose, and the way we in music oriented things. But like my wife would be quick to tell you I'm not at all romantic.
That's
So
funny.
I'm not a I'm not a romancy kind of guy, but I am romantic about things, like how we used to get music and
Hmm.
how the discovery of new bands was when I was a kid and how much different it is for kids today, and
Right.
how much easier it is for you just click on your phone and you find new bands. And
Right.
we had to actually go to like stores and dig through
Yes.
magazines and like just like buy records, unbeknownst to at all what they sound like, just based on what they look like. And
Absolutely.
there's a lot of it more exploratory research going on when I was a kid, which
Oh
made
yeah.
it fun. Made music more important to me, I think, than it is to kids today, I suppose.
Absolutely. I mean, some of my favorite memories are going into a record store and finding a label that had, or first of all, finding the album that has really interesting cover art, right? That was number one, right? Cool cover art. I'm just going to buy this, and see what it's all about.
Right.
Which could bite you in the ass, like Molly Hatchet, for example. Cool artwork, not
Exactly.
so cool of a sound. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, once you found that, then you're like, okay, well, let's try other stuff from this label, right? And so you like just expand without even knowing anything about the bands. You would, start discovering this great music,
Right.
and we don't have that anymore. I mean, kind of, Spotify or whatever will recommend stuff, and every once in a while they hit the mark, but it's not very often, you know.
Yeah, and I appreciate the effort, I suppose, of the algorithm or whatever it is they create that's based on my tastes, and they try to play me stuff that I would like, and sometimes
Hmm.
they do, and I'm always appreciative when I'm turned on to something new that I like through however I get it,
Right.
because I feel like I'm so old now and stuck in my ways that I don't need anything new. They've already Rolling Stones have already written Brown Sugar. There's no need for anybody to write another rock and roll song.
Right.
I
Right.
just, but I'm compelled to do it. So I
Hmm.
want people to be interested in what I'm doing, and it's not fair for me to not give everybody else a fair shake as well.
Yeah. How do you feel about things like Spotify? I mean, as an artist, how do you feel about them?
As an artist, it sucks because it's basically you're just giving your music away for free.
Hmm.
Because they pay you, I don't know what it is, 0.0008 cents a play or something like
Right.
that. I can't remember what the rate is, but it's pathetic,
Hmm.
and I never see any money from it. So that's a bummer. And my mailbox money has dwindled since the age of the internet, and all that sort of stuff. But
Hmm.
that said, as a consumer, I love it
Yep.
because I can hear any. I don't have to have my records anymore. I can have it
Hmm.
all literally in the palm of my hand,
Hmm.
ready to get in my ear holes at just a few swipes of my thumb.
Right.
And there's nothing better than that. As far as the convenience of it, it's dynamite. But it's not the tactile thing of getting your records out, put them on the turntable, and
Right.
you know, halfway through the record, you gotta go flip it over, and
That's right.
all that sort of stuff. There's a romance to that, but it's not as cool as people like to say it is.
Right. Oh, there's
One,
there's Zeke again.
one second.
No worries.
Okay, I'll be right there. All
You
right,
want to take a little
can we
pause?
pause real
Yep.
quick?
2 more minutes. I'll be right back. Okay.
All right.
So we talked about Spotify a little bit. What about how do you feel about the music industry as a whole right now?
I don't really know. Music to me is such a complicated mess anymore. I just there's nothing about popular music that really appeals to me anymore, which is a
Hmm.
bummer. I used to love it when I would like the new Britney Spears song or whatever,
Hmm.
like I love that. And, I haven't heard anything new that's blown my skirt up in so long. And now, like my kid, I have a 20-year-old kid as well,
Hmm.
who's listening to music that I truly hate.
Yeah. Ditto. Ditto.
And I love that. I mean, that's the natural order of things.
Right.
He should be listening to music that I hate.
Right.
For a while, because as a younger kid, he was listening to the Ramones and AC/DC and Motorhead and the
Hmm.
Dwarves and Zeke and all these bands that I really love, and he still likes those bands, and they're a part of his musical lexicon or whatever. But the bands that he's listening to now are like these weird, I don't know, there's a kind of a rap sort of a thing, but they're kind of rock as well. I don't really know
Oh yeah.
what they do. And I don't get it. I don't want to get it. I don't know what
Right.
it is. I don't like it. It sounds like shit to me. The
Right.
drums sound crappy and fake. Everything about it sounds fake and made up. And it doesn't sound like real music to me at all. It sounds like I'm constantly waiting for this. When's this song going to start? He's
Right.
like, what do you
Right.
mean? It's over. I'm like, oh, I don't even think it ever started.
Fucking then there's
So,
auto tune, which just
yeah,
oh, I can't listen to it, man. Just can't do it.
yeah, yeah. Everything about music now. I hate.
Yeah.
And I'm supposed to, I'm old. I'm
Right.
I'm over 50, so I'm supposed to not like this music, and it's not made for me. And I get that, and
Right.
I'm glad that it exists. I'm happy to see the young people have something that the old farts don't understand.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
it for me, it's a drag.
Yeah. I mean, every once in a while there'll be a band like that I like. Like I love Mindless Self-Indulgence. I think they're really interesting, or were. I don't even know if they're still around, but they do that sort of rap metal punk thing altogether. Um,
uh,
have you heard them at all?
no.
Oh, okay, so you don't really need to, but they have a couple of really interesting songs. Like one of their songs, the chorus is "I like my coffee black just like my metal," which I thought was cute, for a bunch of
Uh-huh.
guys. The lead singer's name is Jimmy Urine. It's one of those sorts of bands. But yeah,
Right.
there are a couple of interesting things out there. Um, but I personally am not a hip hop fan at all. I mean, I don't like it. I don't know why. Every once in a while there'll be something I like, but it's pretty rare.
Yeah,
Um,
I liked hip hop a lot in the '90s. And I still like a lot of Ice Cube and Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, sort of, classic hip hop. But what hip hop has become has completely baffled me, and I don't understand at all.
well, yeah, things like mumble rap, which I don't understand that at all. Like, I mean, what?
Yeah,
I didn't even know that was a real thing. I thought it was a joke, and then like, no, that's actually a legitimate genre now of music.
right.
Just like
Yeah, there's too many genres. First of all, there's too many subdivisions and splits and emo and shoegazer and all these sort of things. Like
right,
I have my own notion of what an emo band sounds like, and my kid has a completely different idea of what they sound like. And
right,
I'm like, wait, your emo sounds more like goth rock to me, and
yep,
my emo sounds more like, I don't know, jingly jangly, I don't know, singer songwriter stuff to him.
right.
I don't know. So
Yeah, I mean, when I think of emo, I think of like Slow Dive, bands like that. Or anyway, there are a few that I think of when I think of emo. Um,
yeah, I think of like Elliott Smith or
oh yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
Sunny Day Real Estate, or
Uh,
stuff like that I didn't like at the time. Still never really given any time with, but it seems like it's probably better than what they're calling emo now.
right. Yeah, yeah. My kid doesn't have the best taste in music, even though every phone he's ever had since he was like, 6, I always loaded up with songs from, Ramones and Dead Boys, and all that sort of stuff. And he would pretend he liked it, like, oh yeah, Dad, my favorite band is the Ramones. He didn't like them. Um, but just last year, I think it was for Christmas actually, I got him a turntable and what I like to call my punk rock starter pack of records. And he's like, this is so cool. This is great. you know, but I had to get him like Public Enemy as well, just to like, keep the balance for him. It was
Right.
cute. It's really cool to watch your kids get into music, like
It
really, really
is.
cool.
It is.
Um,
And my kid's making music now, which is real cool. And he's making actually good music that, I don't find so repulsive. And
well, good.
it's different than what I would ever make, but it's quality, and I appreciate it.
Is he going to carry on the spaghetti moniker, or is he going to go by some other
God,
name?
I hope not. That would be terrible. That's a terrible idea. I have
So,
I
okay.
have tons of regrets about my name and my band's name. I mean, it's if I never want to be taken seriously ever, that's the way to do it. Call yourself Eddie Spaghetti in a band called the Supersuckers. Guarantee that nobody's gonna ever give you the time of day.
Right. Well, it's like because you guys are kind of kindred spirits, it makes sense. In fact, I think I've seen you two play together, I don't know, at least a dozen times, but the Dwarves, right? It's the same sort of thing, right? Although
Right,
different because the Dwarves kind of are a funny band, whether
right.
intentional or not, they're kind of a funny band. Um, but also one of my favorites, right?
Oh, me
And
too. I feel like Blag is one of the most talented geniuses I've ever had the pleasure of working with.
yeah, absolutely. In fact, I need to get him on the podcast because I'm sure he would be a blast to talk to.
He, he's great.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever met him actually, but maybe. I know I saw you and the Dwarves play multiple times at the Crocodile because I was there all the
Mhm.
time, constantly there. Um,
Yeah.
lazy weekend afternoons, sitting in the back bar, just like vodka soda, and just like, yeah, this is great. Um, but yeah, yeah, definitely. So, um, how did you come up with the name Eddie Spaghetti? Where did that
Well,
come
I
from?
didn't. It was, made up by the kids in the schoolyard taunting me as a young child. I think just because it rhymed, Eddie Spaghetti, la, 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 la.
Right.
And I hated it forever. And then I was, I was into punk rock, and some buddy of mine was like, "You already have a punk rock name." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, Eddie Spaghetti." I'm like, I guess you're right. I guess I kind of do. So I just
Mhm.
kind of started loosely using that. And then all of a sudden, it's become who I am.
That's awesome. So, my last name is Starchman, so you can only imagine the kind of um, Starchy was a bit like just silly, silly, silly names. But I think it takes balls to use your childhood name as your stage name. That's
Right.
that's
Yeah. I mean, it's something I took the power of it, and reined it in for myself. But I do regret it. I wish I would have been called Eddie Machete
ooh, that's a good
instead,
one.
that
Ooh,
would have been way, way tougher.
yeah. So in doing research for this, I went through and I just did an Amazon search for Eddie Spaghetti, and obviously your solo albums came up, a couple of Supersuckers albums came up, and then there's like a bunch of children's bands that are called either, well, there's actually an Eddie Spaghetti band that did childhood stuff, and then there's Spaghetti Eddie. There are like two or three other bands called whatever. So there's a lot of that out there, um,
Yeah.
and there's
Yeah.
also a
It's not unique.
yeah there's a great nursery rhyme. I won't even say it because I'll botch it, but it's only two lines. It's something along the lines of Eddie Spaghetti. Something about his eyes. Eddie Spaghetti, you put him in the oven and he makes fries, or something along those lines, right? And I was like,
Yeah. Eddie Spaghetti with the meatball eyes.
that's it. Yeah,
Put
yeah,
them in the
yeah,
oven and make French fries. Yeah.
yeah. I'd never seen or heard of that before, so I was like, wow, that's
Oh,
that's pretty silly.
well, your name is Glenn,
I know
so
Glenn is a bad name.
you've got a whole different bunch of bullshit attached to
Oh yeah.
your childhood, I'm sure.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
Starchy and Hutch. Did you ever get that?
No, actually, that's a good one. No, 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 no,
You
I
ever get
didn't.
Starchy and
And
Hutch?
I grew up in northern Idaho. I mean, they were totally into the Starsky and Hutch stuff. So that's a new one. No, it was always Starchy or no, basically Starchy was the real one. So I was like, that's just
Yeah.
stupid. But okay, whatever.
Right.
Um, so, but you never legally changed your name to Eddie Spaghetti, right?
No,
Okay,
no,
good,
I did.
good, good, good. Because I know people who have done that sort of stuff, and it's like, why? I mean, I guess it makes sense. If it's actually become you. Well, like Alice Cooper, for example, who, I mean, yeah, he is Alice Cooper, right?
Right.
But that's a pretty rare thing, you know. You're not, or Nikki Sixx or any of those people who have changed their names. That, yeah, I mean that's a silly name, man. Like it works on
Right.
the album credits. That's cool, but to go through life,
Right.
being called that, like I don't know if that's really so cool,
Right.
you know.
Slash.
Yeah, Slash. Did he actually change? I don't know if he did or not, but
I
probably.
don't know. Probably, but who knows?
It's probably just Slash, like Cher, right? Like
Yeah.
name
One
on the.
one word.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So let's talk about touring a little bit, because you guys tour a lot. I mean, a lot, a lot. Um, like I said, I swear to God, you guys were basically the house band of the Crocodile for a number of years, and that may not be the case, but that's just how I remember it. Right? Like it seems
Right.
like every other weekend, there was a Supersuckers either headlining or opening for somebody else, like constantly. Um, do you take your family on the road with you?
I have.
Yeah.
I we don't always when the kids started school, we had to kind of rein that into a degree.
Hmm.
Um, but we've attempted to bring them out as often as possible and just try to keep in close contact as is possible with that sort of. But we've always been like a shark. We had to keep swimming to survive. So
Right.
the touring was a necessity as much as a pleasure.
Hmm.
Luckily, it's enjoyable for me, and I enjoy doing it. But it's a lot of work for sure, especially the
Oh
way
yeah.
we travel. We don't have a big crew of people around us. We have actually zero crew now. It's
Wow.
literally just three guys now, loading our own gear, tuning our own guitars, selling our own merch, and doing everything ourselves. So it is a lot of work.
Are you going to add another God, I can't talk today. Another fourth member at some point, or are you just going to stick with it as a three piece?
I don't know. I mean, we're not ruling it out, but if the right guy were to come along, we would certainly enjoy having him along. But it's we're not seeking somebody out. We don't need
Right.
another guy.
Yeah.
So it's because our current guitar player Marty Chandler is so good.
Yes.
That he's able to cover all the necessary sonic bases,
Right.
to where I don't feel like we're missing anything live. If
Right.
we did get a fourth guy, I would probably go for like maybe a utility guy, like a guy who could play keyboards and guitar
Oh, there you
and
go.
maybe play some sort of horn of some sort,
Oh, there
like
you
a,
go.
a jack of all trades kind of guy.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I do remember seeing, I don't know if he still goes by the moniker Metal Marty or not, but I remember seeing him quite frequently at the good old Crocodile in, mid
Yeah,
90s, I would guess, early to mid 90s,
for
somewhere in
sure.
there.
Yeah, he was a staple of the scene. He's been around for a long time, Metal Marty, and he still does go by Metal Marty. Yes,
Does he? Okay, it's a great, I mean, speaking of nicknames, that's a pretty good one, you know.
that's a good
Um,
one.
Actually, all of you guys have had decent nicknames throughout the years, so. And I like Eddie Spaghetti, by the way. I just, because it kind of fits in a weird way,
It does.
you
I
know?
mean, it makes sense for me, and I have become Eddie Spaghetti for sure. And I'm cool with it, but it has been a source of I don't know, disrespect, I suppose. It's easy to write a guy off whose name is Eddie Spaghetti and not
That's
take
true.
him seriously as a guy who writes real songs, or
Right.
and I feel like our art is like the dwarves, because we don't always sing about something so serious. Like, well, sometimes we sing about something that's not necessarily, it's not Weird Al Yankovic jokey, but
Hmm.
there's a humor to it. And
Definitely.
I always feel like the humorist does not get credit. The Caddyshack didn't win any Academy Awards,
Right.
uh, but how many times have you fucking seen Caddyshack? A million. And The
Right.
Godfather wins all the awards. How many times have you seen The Godfather? A couple,
Right.
maybe three.
Well,
You
it's
know,
so
but
fucking long for one. Like,
Right, but I mean, it's like, as far as like revisitability, I'm
hmm
going with the comedy movie every time, and
definitely.
it doesn't have to be that quality art piece or whatever that everybody thinks of as worthy of winning the Academy Award. I'll watch Tommy Boy 100 times before I'll watch fucking Nomadland again, or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I'm
So
totally there with you. Although recently I've been watching a lot of space movies. It's just like, I don't know, just weird. Some legal marijuana in a space movie. Just like, yeah, sure. Sounds good. Good way to kill a few hours.
yeah.
Um, And I just recently started smoking weed too. I didn't like it up until a couple of years ago. And I was like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, it was weird. It was never really my drug. I don't know. I liked
I
booze a
just
lot.
recently I just recently stopped, and I loved pot. I felt like
Hmm.
marijuana made everything I already enjoy that much more enjoyable. Like, it made
Right.
movies better, it made food taste better, it made music sound better, it
Hmm.
made everything, all these things I already liked, made them better. Sleep. I
Oh,
love
sleep is
sleeping, and
awesome.
it makes me even sleepier. So
Yep.
I like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a hard time sleeping, so it's really nice just to, and I primarily do edibles, and I'll do like, half a cookie or a cookie or something like that, so a decent amount, but I never stay awake to actually feel the entire effects. I like to take it and then go to sleep because then
Right.
great dreams, and I wake up and I'm a little bit groggy, but not a hangover groggy. It's just kind of like, oh, do I really have to wake up? Do I really have to do something today? Like that.
Right.
But you've been sober for what, a year now, right? Give or take.
Yeah. Yeah. A little over a year.
Congrats, man. Congrats.
Hmm.
Speaking of that, I had dinner with our mutual friend Jason last week, and he looks fantastic, by the way.
Oh,
Despite what he's
good.
going, yeah, he looks real. He's lost like 70 pounds, man. He looks
Wow.
really good, like really good. Um, And I told him I'd say hi on here. So hi from
Cool.
Jason.
Yeah. Hey, Jason.
He's such a nice guy, such a nice guy.
Yeah, he's a good
Um,
guy.
and in fact, you had his "fuck Trump" shirts, right? You you
I do.
you took
Yeah,
some heat for that, didn't you? When you did
I
that video?
did.
Yeah.
A lot of heat, which is, I mean, is it real heat if it's just people on the internet? I don't really know if that,
Nah, it's not.
if I count that. Like my wife and I were talking about that the other day, how, if somebody's giving you shit on the internet, like it's like the tree
Hmm.
falling in the forest. Is it real? Like,
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Or are the
I don't
people
really take
real?
that seriously.
You know.
Right, exactly.
I tried to get him. Oh, that's fine.
One
Yep.
second.
So, I actually um funded, I guess, printings of the Trump is a cunt shirts that he did too.
Oh
And I
yeah,
was,
those are good.
yeah, I still have a couple. Like, I don't know if you've got one or not, but I think he sold out. I think I still have a couple left around. So if you want one, let me know. I'm happy to send one. I think I'll have a
Yeah,
extra large, long sleeved, but other than that, you're welcome to them if you want one.
right
Um,
on.
I was trying to get him to have you wear one of those, and he's like, he's not going to wear that. Like that, that'll be way too controversial. I wear mine all the time.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
even though he's not the president anymore, he's still a cunt.
oh, absolutely. No, there's no doubt that doesn't go away, right?
No, he's gonna
So
carry that with him all the way.
funny story about that shirt. So when I first had them printed up, um, I was at the 5 Point one day, and it was like early afternoon, and I was standing outside having a cigarette, and I realized, the shirt I have on is the Trump is a cunt shirt, right? It was summer, so I didn't have anything over it or anything, and it happened to be the women's march that goes right by the 5 Point, and here I am with this shirt that says, cunt on it, like huge. Well, first of all, it says Trump, and people focus on that, and they get mad at you, and then they see the cunt, and they're like, oh my god.
She isn't
So
agreeing that we be done.
She's not agreeing?
No.
Well, I think you can be. Don't worry about
it's cute. Um,
it.
so I got a little bit paranoid. I'm like, okay, well, we've got a bunch of women walking by, and here I am with a shirt with, cunt really large on it. And everyone loved it. Everyone. They like stopped the march and they come over, where did you get that shirt? Where can I get one? Like it was,
Right.
so you never know. Sometimes PC doesn't work quite the way you think it is going to.
I mean, and your support, you're going to be supported in person. The
Yeah.
people who have negative things to say are just going to keep on walking. They're not going to stop and type up a whole diatribe to you
Right.
and write you a note and slip it to you on the table. That would be too real of a interaction for them to have. It's easy for someone to sit there on their computer and go, no, you're an asshole because
Right. And
it's,
especially if they're using some, nom de plume or whatever, on the internet, like, idiot 666 or whatever, was responding.
right,
Like, I mean, who cares? Right.
right.
But sometimes I'm interested in like, who is that person actually? Like, is it some famous person who's like going under a, some, synonym so that they, can get away with shit? Like, you never know. And that's where it becomes
I,
really interesting.
I guarantee if they're giving me shit online, they're not famous.
Oh, I don't know. Willie sitting there with his Twitter, like, hey,
Right.
let's fuck with Eddie. I could see that.
One
Um,
time I was at a bar, and I had just got Willie Nelson's phone in my cell phone. I got his phone
mhm.
number. This is a long time ago, back in early 2000s. And I was showing off at the bar. I'm like, check it out. I got Willie's phone number, man. They're
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, call him, call him. So I call him up. Fucker answers his phone.
Oh, that's
He's like,
incredible.
hello? I'm like, Willie? He's like, yeah. Oh shit. I had to come clean and tell him I was just showing off to people in the bar, and it's like, look, I got Willie's phone number.
I love it. I love it. I had a situation kind of like that where I had somebody's number in my phone and same thing, kind of showing off. And what I didn't count on is that somebody right next to me who I didn't even know saw the number and wrote it down.
Oh.
And then they started calling. So I had to do basically the same thing, the mea culpa, like, dude, I fucked up. I'm sorry. Like whatever. And
Right.
then I deleted the number out of my phone so I wouldn't be tempted to do that again. I just wrote it down somewhere. Um, so let's get back to your sobriety just for a minute because this is a really fascinating thing, and I would say probably at least half of the people that I've interviewed, musicians, again, it's called Curmudgeon Chat. So I mean, I'm 50 or almost 50, and most of the people I interview are right around the that age and a little bit older. Um, but the trend is definitely, I would say, probably about 50 some percent are these musicians who have gone sober, and usually fairly recently, within the last couple of years.
Uh,
Um, did you have a primary motivation for that, or is it just you were done, like it was just time?
yeah, it was just time for me. I mean, my motivation was just to stop being an asshole, and
Right?
try to be a good guy for a stretch of time. And uh, yeah, I just felt like I had enough drinks. I felt
Hmm.
like when you start drinking, you're allotted X amount of drinks, and I rifled through mine already. So I just kind of I feel like I
Yeah.
finished my drinks.
Yeah.
And so far it's it hasn't been an issue.
Yeah.
I am a little nervous about getting back on tour because
Yeah.
I got sober in COVID times.
Right.
It was May of last year when I did it. It's May now. um
Hmm.
so it was it's it still feels like now I'm around things that I can control. When I get back out on tour, there's going to be a lot of Pavlov moments, first of all, where
Hmm.
I'm just used to having this is beer time after sound check and before the
Right.
show, and this is where I have 6 to 8 beers.
Right. And people
And
buying you drinks and stuff like it.
yeah, and people have always done that, and I've never been like a real kind of shots kind of guy. I've always just kind of
Hmm.
been a beer drinker, but that was something that had changed in the couple of years leading up to me getting sober. As I started drinking hard alcohol, and
Ah,
it started to get a little sloppy because it was just it affects you so much more strongly.
it does.
And so I just decided to pull the plug on it, and
Good for you.
I feel better. I've definitely been a better presence for my kids, and
Hmm.
just I'm not an asshole right now. So
That's excellent.
although I kind of miss being an asshole sometimes.
Right. Well, so that will be an interesting
It's an
thing for
important
you.
part of my personality.
Well, definitely. But one thing that would be interesting or will be interesting is um, the persona that you have on stage, if that's going to change or not, right? It probably won't, but that's one thing that I personally would be kind of a little bit freaked out about, if it was me, because if you're
Right.
used to always playing when you're, tipsy, let's say, or downright just, drunk, um, that's going to be a scary thing. Oh my God, that dog is adorable.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
It's-
Um, Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'll always enjoy singing about, the pleasures of decadence and
right.
all the things that you're not supposed to do. I feel like that's what rock and roll is in a way. It should be you should be singing about stuff that you shouldn't be doing, or the more, I don't know, lugubrious side of life.
Hmm.
But
I dare you to put
as
that
far as
word in a lyric.
okay,
Do it. That would be
I'll give it a
great.
shot. Um, but I always felt like that's an important element to what makes rock and roll music good and fun for
Hmm.
me is when somebody's singing about that sort of vibe. I don't intend to stop that, but I don't have to live it.
Right.
I sing songs. Lots of songs I've made up are just purely works of fiction, and they're actually my favorite ones to continue singing over the years.
Hmm.
Like when I sing a song called Mudhead, it's
Right.
literally about a guy who has mud in his head. So
Right.
there's no story behind it other than these are cool words that sound cool in a rock song.
Right.
And I have a lot of songs that are about real things that really happened.
Hmm.
And those songs I tend to enjoy less and less over time because then I'm always left with the memory of the shitty thing that led me to make that song up. So,
Oh, that's valid.
you know,
Yeah.
it's for me the more fun things to sing are the dumb ones,
Hmm.
the songs about nothing, the silly goofy songs, the creepy jackalope eye, the boy
Yeah.
with a tail, the mudheads,
Yeah.
the coattail riders, all these songs that are just kind of fun goofy songs about nothing really, nothing important anyway.
Yeah.
Just as long as the words are good and cleverly put together, I'm good with it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I can imagine that that's true because, like, if I had to sing like "Breaking Honey's Heart" on stage, I would probably be sobbing. Like that's just
Exactly. I feel like I write this great song, it's about and for somebody, but what is that person going to get out of that song at the end of the day? They're going to
yeah.
have to remember that shitty situation that led me to write that
Hmm.
song.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Absolutely.
it's a touchy thing because there's a lot of power in those sort of true story songs for sure. Like a song like Marie that I
Hmm.
made up. It's about our old singer who died from heroin.
Hmm.
So every time I sing that song, I have to think a little bit about that situation,
Right.
and it's always not always a pleasant thing to go through.
Yeah, I was going through my first divorce actually when um the album that Breaking Honey His Heart is on, and I can't think of the name of it for the life of me. And I've got it sitting right over there. But anyway,
Get it
that entire
together.
there you go. Thank you. That entire album was just like, oh my God, do I really want to listen to this? Because of what I was going through, and I would listen to it, and then I cry, and then I'd be like, oh, I have time to listen to it again. Okay, and then cry, listen, it was
Right.
it was very cathartic, I guess.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's why you do it. That's why you make those kind of songs up.
Right.
But yeah, it's a double-edged sword for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I do have to say this, Eddie. I was really happy that songs like "Paid" were on there as well because they kind of broke up that emotional roller coaster thing. Because I was like, oh, okay, here's a fun song, right? Like this
Right.
is
Yeah.
not.
And there's like, I like it all, man.
Yeah, I
That's on
love
there
that
too.
song. Yeah, that's a
That's a fun
great
one.
album. Um, we're gonna wrap up here fairly soon, but I got a couple of questions, and one has to do with you as a band. You guys kind of vacillate between country and rock, and then a mixture of country and rock, and even like your cover of the Outcast song was I liked it, and then my kid said, that's an Outcast song. Because I had said I fucking hate Outcast, right? They're no talent fuck ups, or whatever. And I listened to
Right.
your cover and I was like, I really like this song. Right. So I was a total hypocrite. It's like, yeah, okay, I guess the lyrics are good, and your rendition is phenomenal. Um,
Right.
but the question is about some of your covers, right? So obviously, What Love is my favorite cover because I'm a huge Dead Boys fan. Um, but how do you pick your covers? Like, I mean, is it just something you like? Hey, I really like this song. What's the process in that?
I feel like more often than not, they wind up kind of picking me, like I just, a lot of times I'll be sitting around with a guitar and a song will come on the radio and I'll happen to learn it. Or, like that's how a lot of the earlier ones came, like our cover of Burn It Up by Madonna.
Hmm.
I was sitting in front of the TV and MTV came on and that song came on. I learned it. I was like, oh, that's actually kind of a cool rock song. We should
That's
do
funny.
that, and I like to do, I like to take songs like that, like Outcast
Hmm.
and Eastbound and Down, and just, kind of make it known what a rock song these things actually are, like
Right.
I will try to expose the rock and roll in something.
Yeah.
And that's always kind of my goal is just to, you know, be a rocker, rocking out all the rocking time.
Yeah. Your cover of Sail On is actually phenomenal because that was a song I hated as a kid. Like every time we come on the radio, I'd be like, this song sucks. It was like, the yacht rock stuff, like the Christopher Cross sort of stuff. It was like, ugh, gross.
Right, right.
But your cover is incredible. Like, I mean, I
Yeah,
listen to
that's
that
a
and
good one.
crank it up and I sing along at, full volume, like all the time. It
Right.
comes on, I'm like, hey, shut the door, turn up the music as loud as I can and sing along.
That's
Um,
cool.
yeah, and it is cool that you're able to do that, right? To take these songs and you don't dramatically change the structure. It's just enough that it's obviously Supersuckers, right? And that's a thing of beauty. A lot of people will
Right,
will just completely fuck up a song when they do a cover, just because they don't want it to
right,
sound like the original at all. Um, or worse, they make it sound exactly like the original.
right.
In which case, there's no
Yeah.
point.
I have this new project I just finished recording with this buddy of mine. His name is Frank Meyer, and he plays in this band called the Streetwalking Cheetahs.
I love
And
them. Yeah.
him and I made this record together recently, and we do a couple covers on it. And one of them is "My Sharona,"
Mm.
which is maybe my favorite song of all time. So it was real
Wow.
daunting to tackle it and make it. We kind of did a pretty straight version of it, but it's it sounds new. It sounds like
Hmm.
me, and it's fresh, and it is sort of a challenge to to when you really like a song, to do it justice. When you
Yeah.
don't really care about the song so much, like that Outcast song, I like that song, but it wasn't something that was like, I felt like it wasn't a part of my DNA like My
Right.
Sharona is,
Right.
So it was a lot easier to address that when it's something that's like an AC/DC song. You want to do it just like AC/DC, but
Right.
you can't. So you have to find another way. And it's an interesting dilemma, the cover song for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Do you reach out directly to the people you do covers of, or you let ASCAP handle that for you?
No, it's easier to ask forgiveness than permission.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And to be honest, it's a good problem to have if somebody reaches out to you, because that means you're getting penetration and like, hey, okay,
for,
great.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So Eddie, I'm going to start wrapping this up a little bit here. But
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go pretty soon.
yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Oh my God, it's almost 2:30. Okay. What was I going to ask? Oh, I'm going to ask two questions that I ask everyone, just because, and nobody likes these questions, so that's why I save them for the end. Um, what and asking of a musician, and this one's hard. What is your favorite band? What do you? I'm sorry. Let's rephrase this. Right, when you're reaching for creativity, right? Like you need something to like boost your creativity. You're writing a song and you get mental block or writer's block or whatever. What do you like to listen to? Like what is your happy music?
It depends. A lot of times I'll find something in another song that I'll want to analyze. Like it'll
Mm-hmm.
just be like a one-off song. Like the other day I was listening to some sort of Bob Dylan something or other, and he had
Mm-hmm.
like this chord progression that I really liked. And I was like, I wonder what that is. So I would sit down and I'd learn it,
Mm-hmm.
and then turn that into my own sort of thing. So it's there's no real specific thing. As far as my favorite band, my it's hard to say. It's either it's AC/DC or Motorhead or the Ramones.
Mm-hmm.
Probably are like my all-time favorites. But I like the Dwarves a lot. I like
Mm-hmm.
Zeke a lot. I like there's like all these other little what I would consider baby bands that I feel like are as good as these
Right.
legends of the industry. For every Rolling Stones, there's a Zen Gorilla.
Yep.
There's a band that nobody's heard that's just as good.
Yep. And Zeke is criminally underrated, in my
Oh
opinion.
my God, no doubt. I mean,
I've
his
never actually owned a Zeke album, and I should, but every time I see them live, I'm like, oh my God, these guys are so tight. I mean, like so tight.
yeah.
I don't understand why they, haven't
You
reached.
should definitely own several Zeke albums.
Yeah,
They're
absolutely.
almost all good.
Yeah, no, and you know what? I'm going to go on a vinyl buying spree here very soon. So I will definitely do some. I actually only have two Supersuckers LPs right now too. So I gotta get into that. Um,
We just reissued a couple, so they're available.
I just the Black Supersuckers and Motherfuckers Be Trippin'. Those are the two that I own right now. Um, and I think just because they had just been re-released, I was like, oh, grab them. You know.
Right.
And Reptilian did an awesome job, I think. So
Yeah, they're doing a good job.
yeah, I actually have that sticker on the back of my laptop just because it's cute.
They're cool.
Okay, so one last question. What is something about Eddie Spaghetti that people probably don't know? What's something just like unique about you?
I like to play tennis.
Really? Okay, now that I
Yeah.
wouldn't have picked.
I'm
Interesting.
actually going to go play tennis in about a half hour right now with my kids.
Nice. That's
So
awesome, man.
I'm also like pretty into playing chess.
Wow.
So
Oh, okay, yeah,
there
those
you
two
go.
things I would not have picked.
There you go.
And you're a Renaissance man, man. You help your kid with math homework, and you play chess and tennis, and
And luckily his math is he's just in third grade, so it's math I can still handle. But next year I'm going to be out. I'm not. I suck at math. I can only count to four in increments
it's,
of four.
that's all you need. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? I mean, that's like
Exactly,
why learn
over and
any more
over
numbers?
again. One, two, three,
Um,
four. One, two, three, four.
Plus, the kids nowadays learn that new math, which I just do not understand at all.
Yeah,
Right?
I
It
don't know.
takes
I don't
longer
know.
to do it that way, but anyway.
my daughter's doing math and she's 11, so she's ahead of my math skills. But he's only 8, so
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun. Eddie, man, I really appreciate your time on this. This is fun. Um, and to anybody listening, listen to Supersuckers. They fucking rock. Greatest rock and roll band in the world, right?
that's right.
That's right, rock and roll, man. Hey, if you don't mind staying just for 1 second, and everyone else, bye.